24/7 here with Baron Norman Tag, New Bomb Turk, and hopefully we'll see Vigilante Williamson soon. And we are the Primetime Kings. Thank you all for being here. We are very, very happy to have y'all, and hopefully everyone's having a great weekend. Other than that, just happy to be here with y'all. Glad to see that I'm joined by my awesome co-hosts. How you doing, Baron?
Where are they? What? Oh, you talking about me? Oh, hi, hey, everybody. How you all doing? Hey,
man, that's awesome. What's going on, Turk?
I'm awake, I think. Yeah. I'm upright anyway.
There you go, man.
That's saying something right there. But there's some people that were buried upright, so you never know.
Right.
But here we are, what they consider second to last weekend of the summer, because being that next week we have Labor Day.
Yeah, there you go. Labor Day. That's next Monday.
Mm-hmm. And,
man.
School's opening. Send those shits back to school. Get out of here. Tired of you little brats.
See, now that's where Arizona's all screwed up, because kids already went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
They go back beginning of August.
Right.
And September doesn't bring cooler weather. So it means nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Man.
Not a thing.
Yeah. All I know is I'm a year older now.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Another year older and deeper in debt.
Yeah, happy belated birthday, brother.
Oh, it's not belated. It's today.
No. All right. Appreciate you giving us the heads up, man.
Sorry about that. I don't typically celebrate. Once you get past like 30, it's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I know what you kind of mean there. But people can still give me presents. I won't turn that down, man.
Yeah, I didn't even take the day off. I still got to work tonight.
Well, I mean,
I used to do. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, brother.
I was gonna say I used to do that now and then, just to give an excuse to have a day off. And figure, well, I can have a day off. I can use my birthday as the excuse. It's like my birthday. Not that I really give a rip, but let's just enjoy. Just enjoy an extra day.
Yeah, for me, it's like, because I earn PTO so slowly, that I'd rather use that for a significant thing. Right. If I finally finish the car, which is really, it's technically done. Still waiting on one part, but if I get the car done, then I can take it to the track, and I'll take that PTO to take the day off so I can take it to the track.
There we go. I used to have where I had too much PTO, and it's like, you got to use it up. You can use it up. Okay, fine. I'll use it for my birthday. So,
yeah, I don't earn it fast enough to use it up in quotes. It's never there.
Oh, yeah. Nowadays, just forget about it.
So, right. Sean has a happy birthday to you, New Bomb.
Yes, I see that. I'm trying to respond.
No, you good, brother. Just appreciate you, Sean. Hey, hopefully you saw my last live stream, Sean, that I did. I unboxed the nice gift that you sent me, and I also got a hold of Loki. Told him that you got something for him and Eris, so we'll be getting together sometime this week so he can come by and pick it up. But wanted to tell you thank you for the kind gifts, man. You're awesome, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Sean. Always.
We have some of the greatest people in the chat. I have to tell you that.
Oh man, great. We got some great people, man. Always. That's man. I tell you what, man. I've been a part of this fandom for like the last 7 years, man. I've been here from when the time damn near everybody started. I've been here, man. And it's been a hell of a ride, man. Being here for so fucking long, man, and seeing it all grow, and some things went to shit, other things blossomed. But yeah, man. But I mean, shit, it's we've come a long way, and the one thing that stayed consistent was always the good people, man. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, pretty much, everybody in the chat except for Cynthia Dildo. Forget about him. He's trouble. Nothing but trouble.
That's my man right there. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah,
he is. He's good. And you keep on telling you, he's got to do something. He's got talent. He's got talent in that narc.
Yeah, I would say out of all the people that I've chatted with online, Dildo, oddly enough, is probably more based than a fair number of them.
Yeah,
like people tend to like get in their lane, and that's they got blinders on, and that's all they see.
Mm-hmm.
Dildo is kind of removed enough to not have the blinders, so he's just kind of like, no, I see it as this, and I'm like 9 times out of 10 I agree with him.
Oh, that's frightening.
Yeah, he has that old sight beyond sight bullshit going on with him, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, he can kind of look into shit with a different perspective, and by the time he's done explaining himself, you're like, oh shit, all right, I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's after at first when you meet him, you thought he was trolling, but then you get to see that he's really a genuine good guy. But then when you kind of try to figure out the method to his madness, you see that he's actually more right than wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he's smart dude, man. Shit, sentient. He's awesome dude, man.
Well, he's our troll. I mean, we have our troll here, and he contributes. He contributes.
Yeah.
He's not your typical moron. It's like he makes us laugh.
Well, yeah, and then then when we don't see him, we be missing his ass. So
yeah, I know.
It's all good, man. Yeah, he's a good brother, man. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Shit. Man,
make sure we set our clothes.
I know, right? Shit. I'll tell you what, man. While we start here, like to give a shout out to Kal-El, R.I.P. Mikey Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mikey Sutton. That's a tough one, man. I know, like Mikey Sutton, he runs with my boy Sil Abdul, and they stream, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week together. And Sil Abdul hit me up yesterday and was like, "Hey, man, we'll like do a show with you this week." So we've been going back and forth. This was like 8 o'clock. Trying to figure out a time for next week, to do something together, because me and Sil used to do a show every week last year. Mm-hmm. And it was actually based on Mikey Sutton's Geekosity website, and talking about the scoops and different things. It was like me, Pop Culture Minefield, Gary and Keith, along with Arwin Avalon and mm-hmm. Sil Abdul, and all of us used to come on and do a show every Sunday. And we did it for a good minute. We had a nice run with that. And some things happened, and we never got back to it. Matter of fact, it's been a year since we last, from what I remember, since we last recorded an episode. And since then, we're like, shit, Mikey's put out, comic books. He had a series that he started called Dreamwalker, and it was actually getting good reviews. Comic book would sell out, and he was working on building up that universe. And of course, he's always running with my boy Socks, from Socks Bulletin. Socks is always in here every Sunday.
Yeah.
And him and Socks is real tight. And just hey, salute to you, Kal-El. Thank you, brother. And and the thing is it's just last month, right around this time last month, Mikey just signed a book deal to do a novel. Mm-hmm. Just a month ago.
Wow.
So, he wasn't ready to leave us. He had plans, and I know him and Sox, we're planning some things, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But some can't question, whenever the good Lord, calls for you, man. When it's your time, it is your time. But like I said, that brother wasn't ready to leave us, man. He had a lot of good things planned, and him signing that book deal last month. Yeah, it was around the 23rd, 24th of last month that he signed that book deal, July, and he just, and boom, it's a month later, and it's a tough one, man. And like I said, he was a good dude, man. He always, treated me nice. He always full of laugh, full of joy. He had his connections, so he knew, some things that were going on. And he was a scooper, man. So he knew what was going on behind the scenes with a lot of things. And basically, his track record was flawless. When he called some shit, sometimes it could be a year or two that he sat there and did a scoop, and a year or two later, what he said actually came to fruition. And people would think that since it was so long that he was full of shit,
right?
But he was always on the money. And sometimes, when it comes to things that go down in Hollywood, from the time something's created and shit becomes myth and rumors to the time that it actually hits, sometimes it's a couple years, man. And that's how it is. But he always had the inside scoop to know what was what, and he called it out. And again, it take him year and a half, 2 years for the shit that he said to come to fruition. But he was always on point,
right?
And he always tried to be as factual as possible, and it was to the point where it's like he would always do videos with like Lords of the Long Box, my boy Sil Abdul, Pop Culture Minefield, Gary and Keith. He would always be on, with them a lot, and and he would also go on with Midnight's Edge, with Tom and Andre, and he was also a good source of information for them, and he was a good dude, man, and I'm gonna miss him, man. And he was a good brother, to a lot of us, and his information was on point, and he had a big heart, man, and he wanted to do some things, and man, we were just waiting to see what he was gonna do, man, and hopefully, there's a comic book or two still coming down the line from him,
right.
But yeah, man, it's just hate to see it, end so soon before it actually kicked off the way you wanted to, man. So, yeah, I'm gonna miss him, man, and yeah, it was my brother, man. So that's what I think, and that's what I feel about Mikey Sutton, man. So, but yeah, man, this show is dedicated to Mikey Sutton and Geekosity. Hopefully, his website can continue to keep going with carrying Bug and everybody over there. And much love, much respect to him and his family and all the people he worked with, and he made quite an impression on a good number of us, man. And he was a great dude. So hopefully God's keeping him, man, and shit, man, we'll be here missing him. So
yeah. This hurts because it's one of ours.
There you go, man. Yeah, he is, man. But yeah, that's like I said, this episode's dedicated to him. So shit, man, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Salute to the memory of Mikey. Thank you, man.
Go. All right.
Oh, so, now you're gonna make me work, huh? Okay. I see how it
nah,
is.
you good, man. You good.
Okay, so we have our first article here. If this is the one you want to lead off with, we have from Bounding into Comics. This article is written by our favorite John F. Trent. I really like his work. I do. Not that I always agree with him, but I like his work. Mark Millar claims comic book industry is in the worst state it's ever been. Suggests comic book legend return to DC and Marvel in order to save it. So it suggests that comic book legends. I agree.
Right.
But let's see what he has to sit back and say. Comic book writer Mark Millar, known for his Superman, Red Sun, Civil War, Wanted, and Kingsman stories, recently posted that the comic book industry is in the worst state it's ever been in, and proceeded to share his idea on how to save it. And I agree with that one exactly. And there he is, by the way, in 2013. Soulless Ginger. Just kidding, man. During an appearance on the Thinking Critical channel, Millar confirmed his previously announced return to DC for a Superman story, and then quickly segued into posting or possessing whatever his idea that at least 20 comic book legends should return to both DC and Marvel to do at minimum 2-year runs in order to save the comic book industry.
Right.
Millar stated, "There's something weird going on right now where I really feel like guys like me and guys who worked in the industry for a while and have been very lucky, had a lot of big books and everything. We've got to man the stations. I think everybody got to come in and do a couple projects and find an artist who's as good as you can possibly get and just do some killer run on something," he added.
Whoa. All right, let's just pause it right there.
I'm not pausing.
All right. Do you know so basically, Mark Millar, people call him Mark Millar, but yeah, I just found out the other day it's actually Millar. So it's that's interesting. But he if anybody knows his work, he's created like the Kingsman. They've done movies on it. The movies are fucking awesome. All the Kingsman movies are shit, man. I love those fucking movies, man. So you can just imagine what the comic book's like. And he created Kick-Ass.
Right.
So, and he created some other comic book properties. Right now, he had just dropped his new comic book. It was just this past Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, where he finally takes all his comic book characters that he's ever created, like the Kingsmen, they get to meet Kick-Ass and all the other comic book creations, and he basically did he's doing a book right now. Issue number 1 just dropped, where they're all together on a mission. So Kick-Ass is he's grown up now. Y'all know if you remember the movie Kick-Ass, kid, he was like a teenager with a green suit. And it was kind of like a action comedy kind of thing a little bit, and but it was actually pretty good, and he came out with that little girl called Hit Girl, and she was actually like a fucking assassin. She was, her dad was Nicolas Cage in the movie. He was a superhero called Big Daddy, if I'm not mistaken, and it was actually pretty damn good. It was a very, very good movie. The first one was, the second one, but it was actually pretty good. And but his character is aged up some, so he's like, probably like in his early mid-20s or whatever, or somewhere in his 20s, but he's a lot older. So you get to see him along with the characters from the Kingsmen, along with all the other characters that he's ever created, and now they're together and all in one book. And that's something that nobody's ever seen, and he's created a lot of these characters like fucking 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
So he's just now uniting all the characters that he's ever created all in one book. And that shit, and I heard that shit's fucking, I heard he's killing it, man. So he's actually doing some good shit. But the thing here, in all due respect to, Mark Millar and, and what he does and what he's saying, is that, what's going on, Zax? Hopefully, it's good with you, brother. Yeah, and but the thing with Mark Millar, it's like, basically what he's saying is the comic book industry is not going to survive without people coming back to contribute to DC and Marvel. He's saying that with our DC and Marvel, the whole comic book company will collapse in one way or another. And basically, in order to keep the comic book industry healthy and going, Marvel and DC has to thrive. And basically he's saying if all the best comic book creators and artists were to come back and contribute to bringing DC and Marvel back up to par, then the whole comic book industry, along with the indies, would actually benefit from that. And we can actually see ourselves having some kind of future with the comic book industry instead of it dying the way it is right now.
Well,
But yeah, that's what he's saying. And I got something else to say. Go ahead. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think I think we can survive at least one of the two collapsing, Marvel or DC. But because you've got others in the wings waiting to take off if they do things right. And I think he's half right about, bringing back these artists and bringing back these writers. He's half correct on that one. We absolutely need that. The next thing you need to do is the comic book industry has got to quit putting all this stuff out on all the fancy paper and such where it was $5-6 an issue to buy a comic. Because how are you going to get the next generation in? The kids. It's too expensive. They need to kind of go back to the roots and go back to how they used to do it. And I'm not saying get rid of all the fancy. Of course, you want to have some fancy stuff now and then. But the comic industry is almost aimed at collectors instead of actual readers. And have a kid be able to walk into a comic book shop and walk out with 3, 4, 5 comics instead of only being able to afford one at the most. And you're not going to get that next generation without keep this going if you don't get that next generation. So it's the two of them. They need to do a lot of changes on both sides, in my opinion.
Right. What you think, Turk?
Well, yeah. Like, I'm going to start off with, you want these professionals, these really good comic book makers,
right,
the writers and the artists, to come back to an industry that basically, if you didn't agree with them, they kick you the fuck out.
Right.
Now you want them to go back? Like, a lot of these guys, like the guys that are working with RIPA now,
right,
Dixon and Etleb,
right,
probably mispronouncing that.
Right.
They were shunned by that industry
because
of their political views, and now you want them to go back? Like, that's a bit narrow-minded. They didn't leave the industry; they got pushed out of the industry,
right.
and a lot of those don't want to go back to the same situations. It's not just that they're missing the writers and the artists, because they are. Honestly, if you've seen some of the new comic books, they look like ass. And the stories are just nonsensical. But you need to tear down from the top, because there's individuals at the top of Marvel and DC that are making bad decisions. And no matter who you throw underneath them, you may get it to pick up a little bit, but it's not going to pick up the same way if the powers that be are still dictating, hey, make that character do stupid shit that character could never do before,
right,
or make him gay, or make him whatever. Like, stop leaning on the identity politics and just make good comic books.
What's in general?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the first part, is tear it down from the top down. Get rid of the idiots in charge, because they're the one that put them in this place in the first place. Outside of that, I don't know. Like, you're so far gone that I don't know if you could pick it back up to the way it once was.
Right.
Like I said, you may be able to get it to uptick a bit, but people who've left the purchasing side of the industry, the consumer, once they leave, it's really difficult to get them back. Like, it's almost a miracle to get them to come back once they've gotten just fed up and stopped buying. Pardon me. Yeah, I don't know. Like, and speaking to the whole collector versus reader, I mean, that's been going on since Death of Superman, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to push it, the Death of Superman was the origin point for the death of comics, because they didn't view that as purely a story that they needed to tell. He wasn't gone long enough to make the death significant.
Right.
And it was, the issuing of the black cover, silver logo, like baggie that they came in to cover the actual cover. Like it was all a sham just to try to churn profit. And they've been going downhill ever since. I don't think you'll ever get back to, less than $1 comic books.
Oh no.
It's just not the age for that right now.
No.
The economy isn't in the right place.
Exactly.
But even to try to think like, okay, try to get them below $2. I just don't think. I mean, they're already struggling as it is. Now you take a book that they expect to sell, X number of copies at a certain price point, and you say, okay, well, we'll put it on cheaper paper and make it black and white. Right. I just don't think they could get back to that. Like, the expectation is too far gone.
Right. I was just thinking, what's up, Vigilante? He says the comic book industry made a mistake catering to spectators and ignoring readers. What's up, Claude? Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's the thing. You got your Ethan Van Skyvers, you got your Mike Barons, you have your what's the gentleman name? Elliot. I forgot his last name. He was colorer / artist for DC. I think he was doing Superman, and they they try to run him off the industry. Now he's working for Young Ripper. There's a lot of people out there that they have done great work. Look, if you like, let's say I give you an example. You look at the New 52, the thing that stands out the most would be everything that happened with Green Lantern, with Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver. If you just think about the whole thing, that's probably one of the most defining things of the New 52. Shitty era, but the hell of a fucking story. And you look at Jeff Johns, you look at Ethan Van Sciver, and come to find out Ethan Van Sciver has been treated like shit. And it's like, damn, man, and he helped create like the Rainbow Lanterns. He did, like all the cool shit that happened with Green Lantern, with the Sinestro Core Wars and all the Rainbow Lanterns and the
Brightest Day.
What was that? The Blackest Night, where the Black Lanterns rose and the whole shit. Like that shit was, man, that was some genius shit. And DC killed, one half of that team. They were the ones that brought back Green Lantern Rebirth that brought Hal Jordan back. That was them. Flash Rebirth that brought Barry Allen back into the fold of DC. That was them.
Yeah.
So just because of how somebody voted, you're gonna fucking treat them like shit.
Well, that's because they don't care. They don't, and they obviously don't care about not even just the person, but what the person created. It was they never gave a shit about what Van Sciver did. So, and to me, because I did get into comics kind of late, that Darkest Night, Brightest Day was so epic. It was just this huge story, and it carried weight. Because that was one of the flushing points for a lot of the getting rid of those excess characters.
Right.
That's how they got rid of them, was in that storyline. And, it carries so much extra with it because those characters didn't really come back. I mean, some of them did when they did Rebirth, but not all of them. And many of them came back in a very stripped down way. Like it had there were consequences, and it was significant. You know, even more so than the death of Superman, because like I said, the death of Superman was, oh, he's dead, and everybody freaked and were like, oh my god, I gotta get the last issue. And then they brought him back, which, don't get me wrong, I love the black suit. The black suit was badass, but the mullet, give or take on the mullet, that was.
I mean, you know, his hair grew out a little bit. He's been gone for how long was he gone? Like a year and a half, something like that.
It was barely a year.
Yeah, I think yeah. You know, I guess his hair grew out a little bit, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he had no, he didn't have no shadow, or did he?
No. I think at the very beginning they gave him like a beard or whatever. Or like a 5 o'clock shadow. So I remember some shit being on his face. Yeah,
I can't, but I don't want to be wrong. Mandela effect. And be thinking that he had a beard when he didn't.
No, I think you're right. I think they gave him a 5 o'clock shadow, but it wasn't there for very long.
No, I wasn't. No.
He got cleaned up real quick, but they left the mullet.
And then Lois was on his face, but that's beside the point.
Well, I mean, that 5 o'clock, super shadow would like tear her insides out. I mean, Jesus. But anyway, like it, and then the guns. Like, it was just a awkward comeback.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't just come back and, like, bitches, I'm back. I got a black suit, but I'm still me. Like, I'm back. I can't do everything I used to, so now I'm carrying guns like Punisher. It just felt weird. I mean, eventually they sorted him out, but, man, that was a tough road back.
Right. And then, and then his powers got haywire. They put him in the suit, and then he divided into two.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had two. They just gave Jonathan Kent that fucking blue suit.
Oh,
that electro blue suit when he was blue and red.
I did like that suit.
Yeah, they gave it. They gave it to Jonathan.
Why? Like, I mean, right? Cause that's the thing that irks me the most is like, oh, we're gonna give this guy this. It's like, okay, cool. Why? Like, tell me in the story, why did he get the suit? And then you just find out it was, it was cool. Like, what?
No, the thing with Jonathan is his powers were going, like, I guess, haywire a little bit. So they gave him, they figured that was what's happening with Superman when they gave him the blue suit.
Right.
So they were like, hey, put on this fucking suit, which makes, even after all the different, the New 52, the Rebirth, and all this other shit, it lets you know that the Superman blue and red is still canon.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Through all the fucking, all the other shits, they still recognize that, hey, Superman, after he died, he had the mullet, Steel and everybody came back. He fucking split into two. And it's like, all right, well, this is the blue suit. So they gave him to Jonathan. And right now, like, Jonathan's in a series. He's like, I guess some kind of limited series where he went to go fight Ultraman from Earth 3, the Earth 3 version of Superman.
Right.
He's gangster. And then from there went to go fight Injustice Superman from the Injustice universe.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going through all this shit wearing the blue suit.
Cool.
To me, that just sounds like marketing. Like they're getting ready to do something with Injustice again.
Yeah, they found a way to bring him into that universe, and he's dealing with all the Injustice characters and shit. Being Jonathan Kent that he is, so when he went to go have his final confrontation with Injustice Superman, you know what the fuck he does? Runs up to him and hugs him.
I got you, bro. You need a hug.
Yo. I know life is tough, but come here, Dad. I love you.
Right. Dad, not dad.
Yeah.
Dad from another universe, Dad.
But that's the thing. They got him to where, he's trying to battle villains with kindness.
Yeah, people don't buy comic books for that. Like, not necessarily. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, there needs to be a range of emotions. Yes, I do agree that just all fight and nothing that kind of tugs at your heartstrings makes it a very bland comic book as well. But like, that can't be the whole thing. Is he still sucking dick?
Yeah, he's still. Yeah.
No wonder.
I mean, but he's still on this eco-friendly. Hey, let's protest.
Whatever.
Fucking this and that. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Right,
they got
right.
him on
And
this real soft ass shit. They got him, they got him tippy toeing through this shit, man. So I don't know.
And that's what I was getting at. That's not necessarily the writers. The writers are given a general idea. Look, we need this character in this book to do X.
Right.
And they have to fill in the blanks. Now, of course, subpar writers are going to come up with shit like this, like hugging it out and all that other bullshit. But like, it's still coming from above, and the individuals, and who's that fat slob at Marvel that they just will not fire for nothing?
Oh, Dan Slott.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, if you want to bring all these major people back, Slott needs to go.
Yeah.
Period. Your time has come and gone. You're done.
It's funny. They just bought him back. They just bought him back they just bought him back to write Spider-Man.
Oh,
okay.
At Marvel. But they just did it within the last month. Like, this is like new shit.
Oh, yeah, which Spider-Man is it? Because we never know anymore.
If I'm not mistaken, he's somehow coming back with the Green Goblin Spider-Man. No, Dr. Octopus. My bad.
The Superior Spider-Man?
Exactly. There you go. Superior. There you go. That's it. He's coming back with that. See, now look. This is the thing here. It's like, when it comes to the comic book industry, Chris Claremont just came back to the X-Men, but people are reading this shit and it's like, it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the thing is also, is like, you do have some classic artists and writers that are coming back, and what I'm noticing is starting to become just a small little trend, is that they're writing period pieces. Basically, they're coming back in the era that they were best known in.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're basically they're coming in and they're writing stories. Like, let's say if their moment, they wrote X-Men stories back in the 90s, they're coming back and they're writing a story that's set in their 90s X-Men.
Okay.
But see, the thing is, they're playing it safe because they can't write nothing that pushes the comic book industry forward. Why? Because at the moment where the comic book industry is with current day comics, it's all fucked up.
Right.
So they can't sit there and build on any of this fucked up shit. So they have to go back and basically, I don't know if you want to call it retcon, but just make a story that sets within the time when things weren't all fucked up, and it's shit that's relatable, shit that they wrote, and things in a universe that they're comfortable in.
Well, yeah, and then at the end of the day, it's kind of like I don't want to say a time filler, but you're filling in gaps in time, like where maybe back in the 90s it progressed into the 2000s, but maybe they didn't touch on certain things. So they're going back and filling holes basically in their lore, right, to try to catch up. But you know what that eventually leads to is another event that has to suddenly align all of this shit back to current day. So you'll have another massive event where there's 70 different titles that have to get tied in, And to be a reader at this point, you'd have to keep track of that story. You'd have to buy into all these different maybe titles that you didn't read before because you didn't really care about the character. But because the story links into those characters, like a lot of these do, Civil War, first Civil War did it, second Civil War definitely did it. A lot of New 52 did it. I mean, I was telling you about, like, when it came to Darkest Night, Brightest Day,
right.
There were so many side itty bitty titles, and like, you know, if you didn't read their arc, it didn't matter because suddenly one issue was completely out of their arc just to tie into the event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was like a lot of one shots, little mini series, and some of the larger characters in the whole DC universe got pulled into a lot of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, there were issues. There were issues for like Teen Titans,
right,
that tied into that completely derailed their own story arc because they had their own thing going on at the time.
Exactly,
and they had to yank them out of that to deal with this event. And it like pardon me, it hiccuped their whole timeline and their whole, arc. Wonder Woman did the same thing. Aquaman did the same thing. I mean, they had so many different side titles, Flash, that all had to like suddenly deal with the event and then go back to whatever they were doing.
Yeah, and the writers had to pick up where they left off before the whole event even happened to try to patch
it. And it was jarring because if you were reading like the Flash at that time, it was like this one story arc and then suddenly left turn off into Blackest Day, and then we're back, and like nothing happened. You're like, what?
What's up, Glenzer? My man. Hopefully you're doing all right. He says one of the best 80s stories, Doom Quest, Iron Man number 149 and 150, great story in 2 issues. Today stories drag out way too long.
Yeah. Well, they're massive events, yeah.
Right.
Well, another thing too is a lot of these events, when they cross each other over, you'll have 2 or 3 events going on at once.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'll have 2 or 3 events somehow crossing over. They have nothing to do with each other, but they're coming out at the same time. And then while that's happening, the characters are also in their own titles. Right. So you have to buy their, the original title. If you're a collector, let's say of Aquaman, you have, of course you buy an Aquaman issue, whatever. Then you have to buy the Aquaman. It might be a limited series or one shot. You have to buy that, and then depending, if it's 2 or 3, different crossovers happening at the same time, then you got to buy, what's separately within them that has to do with Aquaman. So Aquaman might have a one shot in one limited series, but he has a fucking 4-part limited series where he's getting his ass kicked and he's dealing with the problem, or whatever, and you have to buy that shit, and you're like, well, damn, how the fuck is he doing all this and then running around in his own book at the same time?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the storyline ends up like, instead of a true perfect arc where you have a curve to it or whatever, it ends up looking like a janky line that's just left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
Yep.
And it
What's
gets
up, Doc Wolfen?
Hey, John. How you doing?
Hail to the Primetime Kings in the chat. R.I.P. Mikey. Yeah, R.I.P. Mikey Sutton, man. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Thank you for being here. But yeah, man, it's I tell you, man, they're doing a whole lot. So see, the thing is, you got Mark Millar. He's sitting there and he's looking at the shit, and he's one of the top dogs. Like let's say like him, Jeff Johns, hell, Mark Waid even came back to form. And you know what? It's hard for a writer that was good to turn into an SJW on the level of what the fuck he was doing, because he was on some like Heather Antos type shit.
Yeah,
like he was just on some dumb shit and getting it and fucking up a lot of shit. He fucked with your boy Zach, at you know, he was putting out his Jawbreakers, you know, his comic books and all this other shit. And you have Mark Waid, you know, with fucked around and killed his publishing deal with Antarctic Press. So you have Mark Waid, you know, preventing people from trying to put out comic books because he didn't agree with their politics.
Right.
You know, so when you sit there, you look at that kind of shit. Normally, when writers get that damn stupid and they get that damn fucked up, a lot of them went that way, and some of them that were even like, Gail Simone. At one point, she was decent, but now she's so full of shit that her writing is just it's affected, man, because of you know, she never pulled herself out of that shit. Somehow, Mark Waid did. Right now, Mark Waid's one of the top writers over at DC. His comic books that he's fucking writing, they're not woke, and it's crazy to hear somebody say that when you know how full of shit he's been all this time.
Right.
But the thing is, his comic books that he's writing right now are some of the top comic books being purchased at DC right now. So I'm not saying it because I'm a huge Mark Waid fan. I loved what he did back in the day. He did some groundbreaking shit back in the 90s. Fuck. The shit he did with The Flash and a bunch of other titles, he did some great shit. You know, he did Kingdom Come.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, that motherfucker can write. But then the way he's been for the last fucking a good part of the decade, he's been a real shitty dude, and nobody won't support that. But man, if you notice in the last like year or two, he's been off of social media, really.
Yeah.
Because if he's been about that dumb shit the way he's been for a good part of the last 7-8 years, then we would have heard, oh, Mark Waid, blah blah blah. You haven't heard about him because he's been actually sitting his ass somewhere and writing comic books the way he's supposed to have been doing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Mark Waid is actually contributing to some of the good shit. He has some of the best comic books being written right now at DC Comics. Then you got Mark Millar, which is actually trying to contribute to. He's writing Superman, like a Superman story right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's talking about also like Mike Barron, Chuck Dixon. You know, you artists like Graham Nolan. You look at, there's a lot of people out there, even some badass writers and artists that you haven't heard of from like the fucking 80s and 90s, even some from the 70s. Some of them are still alive.
Yeah.
And if you gave them the work, they'd come back. But the thing is, they've also burned a lot of people because they owe a lot of people money.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They never settled debts with a lot of people. So,
Or
you know,
never
they
wanted
don't
to.
cross that bridge because, dude, it's so fucked up, man.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, in some ways, the comic book industry, when it comes around to the uppers, has always been screwy. They've always screwed a lot of the people beneath them.
Oh yeah,
and the
artists.
artists.
I mean, you could look at like
writers do it out of love. I mean, it's love for them.
What some of them have done, and you know, you look at certain characters and why maybe power sets changed out of nowhere. And that was because they were avoiding paying the original creator for that character. Because every time they use that character, the original creator gets some form of payment. So when they start bouncing the power sets so that character is no longer that character, like if you look at Miss Marvel, you know, or originally Captain Marvel, and then transitioning into Marvel,
right,
and then Miss Marvel, and then you know, Captain Marvel, what we have now.
Right.
All that happens because they didn't want to pay the original person, because the character as they were when they were created is no longer that character. They've since changed it, and they don't have to pay that person anymore. Now it's a new character.
Yeah, it's that 25% difference. They try to tweak it every
right,
make it something. Actually, that's what they did for Superboy, Superman, and Superboy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they say that if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Like DC tried to come with Superboy to basically
sidestep.
Right, exactly. And make like try to sit there and try to fuck over the creators and not give them the props just because they sit there and they tweaked it a little bit. They changed the origin story a little bit. And so they tried to make it like it's a Superman of their own when it's everything, but you tried to make your exactly. I don't know, man. It's
well, and it's especially evil when you look at so if like with Ethan Van Sciver,
right,
you tweak the Green Lanterns a bit so they're not the Green Lanterns that he created. Okay, so he's still alive and he can still do his own thing and whatever. And every now and then they may use, some reference to a Green Lantern, in a movie, and then Ethan gets paid.
I think if I'm not mistaken, it was Injustice, the video game. I would think it was like Injustice #2. They had one of the Red Lanterns, Atrocitus.
Yeah.
Was in there, so you were like, "Oh shit!" They coming with this shit. It was either Injustice or it was it was Injustice. So you got Atrocitus in there, and him and Jeff Johns created that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can imagine with like DC Universe because all those characters were in that as well.
Yep. DC Universe.
That
especially like the online.
Right, and it was a perpetual game. It's still going to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what the pay would be, but I'm sure he's getting something for that because Atrocitus is in that game, and Hal and Sinestro and all those characters are in that game. But at the end of the day, they tweak it so that they don't have to pay Ethan money. I get it. Ethan's still alive. Ethan can go make his money elsewhere. But when you're adjusting a character whose creator has since passed, that's the shitty moment because now you're taking it away from
his kids,
the legacy, right? His kids, the legacy of that original character doesn't mean a damn thing to them when it's existed for so many years.
Yeah, you're right about that. What you think about that, Vigilante?
This is dirty.
Well, I kind of came with partway through. I heard some of it before, but I don't know which specific situation you're talking about. You talk, I guess.
Well, like with Superboy and Superman, they created Superboy to kind of avoid the Superman legalities that were behind it. With the creators.
Mm-hmm. Even though it seems like they would still be on the hook because same symbol and all that good stuff. But
man,
what the problem is, a lot of times it's not about who's right; it's about who's got the better lawyers and the longer money. And Warner Brothers is going to have that, even with all their financial issues, they're still going to have that to individual comic book writer and everything. And I did hear you talking about them trying to kind of mess with I think Ethan's and some other creators like
the Lanterns,
and because they, ironically enough, Marvel doesn't even have the rule where they give you a piece of stuff you create, and DC is constantly trying to circumvent this rule that they created back in the 80s or 70s when they were trying to get more talent, whatever it was. All they do is try to go around it. If you don't know, what's my man's name? Paul Dini gets no publishing whatsoever for Harley Quinn. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think, and part of the thing with Harley Quinn was because it wasn't created
for the comic
in a comic book, right? It was created for the TV show,
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas, and I know Marvel does do some of the right stuff because if you look at like the Snyderverse movies where they did reference Green Lantern in some way. Ethan's name is in the credits.
Yeah.
DC
has some stuff.
Yeah.
Right. He did get paid. But and then you look at the Lanterns now where it's Hal's been shoved to the side. Even John Stewart's been kind of shoved to the side. and you have all these like diversity characters that have filled the roles, and those weren't created by Ethan or anyone in that era. So now, like when they use Green Lanterns, they don't use the original characters; they use these new diversity characters to avoid paying them.
That you know what? That's been a hidden kind of thing. Everyone wants whoa. I remember. Shout out to was it? I might have got it from somewhere else, but I kind of think it was when Robert Meyer Burnett was on the Culture Crime Fighters back in the day. With me and Matt, and we were talking about the red C-3PO, and the reason C-3PO's arm was red was so the new set of creators, including your boy JJ, could get their share of toy money for the red arm C-3PO. There was no storyline reason. It was just to make sure that their version, once they, thinking they would sell toys, sell merch, they would get the money from it. And so a lot of times, they add diversity to it, but a lot of these changes were made for the creators themselves to try to get a piece of whatever money they thought would happen from whatever change. I'm saying that because I think the Green Lantern thing you talked about is probably a similar thing.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring up C-3PO because how many times have we seen him in pieces across movies? Multiple times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been blown apart more than I'd like to even admit. And at no point in time did he ever end up with, like, he ended up with a slightly shinier arm at one point.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like, it was still gold, but it was a shiny gold, whereas the rest of him was still kind of that beat up gold or brass.
Yeah.
And that was the only ever change. Like, to go to a red arm and suddenly the red eyes and he's evil, no, it's just dumb.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that.
I mean,
Kai Zax, Glenzer, Das Wolfen. Real quick, I'm sorry if you guys already talked about it, but I saw it and I said something about it when I was in the chat. Mikey Sutton passed?
Yeah.
He found out about it early this morning, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I found out. And
collapse of aneurysm, a stroke aneurysm type of thing. Yeah.
That's crazy and scary. Like I said, this week has been crazy. Bob Barker died. 2 great wrestlers, Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt died. And Mikey Sutton's like, goodness gracious.
And the voice to Harley Quinn, the original one.
Oh, she died too?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this week.
Yeah, she died. I think we got word of it like last night.
Days ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she actually officially passed like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I'm about to say about 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't hear about it until last night.
What's even more soul crushing and it hits you harder when you realize, like when they say, so and so passed and they were this age and she was like 67. Yeah, and that just blew my mind. I was just like, man, how old am I now? Like, Jesus.
Bray Wyatt, the wrestler, we're the same age. He was born a few months. Well, I turned 36 in a few months. But we're the same age. I'm like, he just had a heart attack. And it's like, that's scary. I mean, he was a big guy. I was saying, like, he didn't seem like the type of guy to get certain medical procedures, we'll call it that. He, it didn't seem like that. So this might just, no wrestler's a hard life. It was just like that hurt, and then Bob Barker passed, and then Sid Mikey, like, goodness gracious, didn't know about Harley Quinn. Just a tough week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Mikey was only a couple months older than me.
Yeah, I'm like, he can't be that old.
55. I'm 54. I'll be 55 next month.
Oh man,
almost to the day. So.
Oh well, happy early birthday.
I did see one post about Bob Barker, and I thought, somebody said, hey, it's a little too soon, but I thought it was appropriate. I thought it was something that he would have found funny. Was that because he died at 99, and somebody had posted, like, this man got it as close to $1 without going over, even in life. And it was like, oh, shit.
Right. I mean, you know what? Bob Barker would have laughed at that. I don't consider that tasteless. Yeah. I don't consider that tasteless. And too bad he's not here to appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's true. I mean, like you look at it, it is like that was his life for so many years that I don't think anybody should find that off color.
No.
Like it's what defined him as a human being. That and the SPCA, get your pets spayed and neutered and all that. Like it was. Anybody who read that would have understood it immediately. If they've ever watched The Price is Right, would have known right off the bat. I know what he's talking about. It makes sense.
Same here. I mean, watching him almost when he started taking over for The Price is Right back in the day. I know I was a wee young lad, but my babysitter loved the morning, soaps and game shows. So if I wasn't going to school, you'd watch that. If you had a sick day, you'd watch them. If you just have a day off, or you had Christmas vacation or Easter vacation, you sit. It's like, okay, we're gonna watch Bob.
That was generational. Everybody for like 50 years, any kid had a sick day watched The Price is Right.
Right.
And you have to hang it, especially since it's my birthday. I have to say this.
Happy birthday.
I remember. Thank you, sir. I remember when Bob Harker had color in his hair.
Yeah.
Right? Because that man was known for being like ghost white hair for years. And I was like, wait a minute. I remember first watching it, and that man had like salt and pepper hair. Which,
I only know the white hair Bob Harker. Salt and pepper.
Right, yeah. Like, I mean, I'm going back 70s.
Oh, yeah, he had dark hair in the 70s into the 80s. But I remember when he did the change. I remember that first episode, he comes walking out, and it's all white, and people are going crazy. It's like, it's like, here we go.
What do you want?
Yeah. And, no one thought, everybody thought was great. I remember seeing that episode. It's like, it's one of those memories that you remember that show.
That was his coming out moment.
Yeah, coming out. I came up from behind the curtains. There you go. But even before The Price is Right, he was known for Truth or Consequences too. So he had a good many years, and a lot of people remembered him from that. He got a town in New Mexico that was named after the show because of a contest.
Right.
I mean, think of the impact of that show that it went that far. So. And of course, Miss America or whatever he was. I can't remember one of the beauty pageants he was
the host.
Yeah. And it's he definitely was a part of a lot of our lives. And it's like Drew Carey's out there and he seems to be making a success, but for me, it's always been Bob.
There you go.
And his Barker's Beauties. Oh my word. Oh
yeah. He had a couple of.
Yeah, he had a few nice ladies on there.
Well, yeah, and that was an era where you could get away with that.
Yeah.
Especially when you lean back to the 70s. Like, I don't like, and I know the whole women's movement and burning bras and all that. I don't think bras were ever purchased through a certain section of the 70s. Because you look at The Price is Right, every one of those girls was saying hello in her own way.
Oh, yeah, flipping and flopping, and headlights were on. Notice me. Well, I remember the one time they had that episode, and she was a bigger lady with a bigger top, but she had one of those, boob tube things, they have out there. So she comes running. What are those called?
Oh, I think I remember
crop
that.
Crop tops or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And she comes running down, they're bouncing, the thing flops down, and they're having to digitize or scissor out. And she doesn't know. She gets down, turns around, she's jumping up and down, giving everybody a show.
Yeah.
It's like a completely accident, lost in the moment, but it's like, it's stuff like that you remember and you enjoy, and it's like.
Well, and to think about the things they like we were saying, like they could get away with back then that they definitely couldn't now. What was the match game?
Yeah, match game with Richard Dawson.
Right, but also who was the other host on that? Because there was a guy before him.
Well, Richard Dawson was the first one. Ray Combs took over like a couple years after they canceled it. Rape Combs went several years, and they brought Richard Dawson back for one season, and then it went to Louis and Al from Home Improvement and a few others. Now we have Steve Harvey.
Because there's a guy, let's see here, because it ran from, its original run was 73, 79, and then it came, and then there was another one. Gene Rayburn, that's the guy I'm thinking of.
Oh.
He was the original host, and he was so off color, and some of the questions they like, some of the, like, you know, the way they worded them was like suggestive, but you could take it more than one way. And of course the guests would always take it the wrong way. But the contestants would take it like straight.
Oh, we're talking about Match Game?
Yeah, that was Match Game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Match Game. I don't know. I was getting confused with Family Feud. I'm sorry. My apologies. Oh, yeah.
Match Game. I was talking about Match Game.
Oh,
and they used to get really off color. Like, oh my God, you can't, like, you couldn't even say half the shit they used to say or ask the questions like the way they were worded. Not even close.
Dumb Dora is so dumb. How dumb is she?
Right.
I know.
But like some of their questions, like, oh.
And you know, it's kind of funny when you watch it as a kid, you don't catch it, but then you start watching it when you're older, it's like, whoa, that one.
Yeah, why is everybody laughing?
Yeah. Or, you know, this is funny, but you don't get the double entendre that they have on there.
Right. It was definitely, because there was a PM version of the game too.
Right.
That was on, primetime. And they definitely pushed the limits.
Oh.
And all it was words.
Yep.
Nothing more.
Oh, yeah. And in your imagination too.
It was right. And where your mind would take it. Right.
Exactly. Which sometimes is the funniest. Instead of having,
because that was typically what the guests would, like, the guest stars would take it. They'd take it completely to the worst possible aspect every time.
Yeah, because, up to the point you had your three regulars. You had Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Riley, and you had Richard Dawson. And then, of course, you had the three, circling, whether it's Fannie Flagg, Betty White, it all depends. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask y'all something. Hey, Vigilante, did you ever watch any of this?
We put him to sleep.
No, I forgot I was muted. I saw something like, because there was the Game Show Network, so I do remember
like reruns and stuff like that.
Richard Dawson. I remember him because he was on Family Feud and what was it?
Right.
Match Game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Match Game. Yeah. He started off with Match Game, and then they gave him his own show, Family Feud. He did both for a while.
Never mind the fact that he was an actor and was in a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, Hogan's Heroes, Laughing. Yeah, I mean, Running Man. He had a great role in Running Man.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's him Running Man. I did see that. Okay,
right.
So yeah, I do remember him, and I do vaguely remember the match because there was a network for a while called Game Show TV, and it would show old game shows and a couple current game shows.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you have Pluto TV, which I recommend everybody have, no, I'm not getting paid for it. They have the Buzzer channel on it, which is the old game shows.
Oh,
you see those old match games and such like that.
Okay.
They even have prices right both the Bob Barker era and the current era with Drew Carey. Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, they got a couple other game show networks on there too. Yeah. So I mean, get Pluto. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, they be watching watching shit like Press Your Luck and shit.
Yeah. No whammy.
No whammy.
Yeah, and that shit.
Yeah, that was a staple of the 80s.
Yeah, Peter Tamarkin.
Didn't it go into the 90s? It had to, right? Or did it
go
into the 90s?
Yeah, they did a revival of the show, and they actually did call it Whammy.
Yeah. Yeah. That might have been even the 2000, maybe later 90s Whammy. Maybe I'm.
Yeah, later 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Yeah. But a lot of times we just mixed it, when you put some years behind it, that whole era just blends together. Like that 95 or 2001, I don't know.
Yeah, that and Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
Hollywood Squares was done forever.
Paul Lynde in the center, being snarky.
Yeah.
Paul Lynde.
Well, and it's funny, and that one went forever.
Yeah, Peter Marshall.
Yeah,
was the host. And then in the 80s, they did this experiment where they had the Hollywood Squares match game hour. So the first half of the show was the match game, and Gene Rayburn would host it. And then the second half would be the Hollywood Squares, and Bowser from Sha Na Na was the host.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and Peter Marshall was pissed about that. He thought he'd be able to come back and do the Hollywood Squares one, and they didn't ask him back, and he was rooting for their death. It didn't last long. It didn't last long.
Yeah,
probably.
I never thought Bowser was a fit for that anyway.
No,
like I mean, he's an awkward-looking individual in the first place. He's super tall, but like really, really thin, and he's got this like ridiculously deep voice. And yeah, like. It was right about the point where Sean and I had like their kind of second push where they got popular again, and then they grabbed him for that show, and it just never worked.
No, he was not a good game show host. No offense to him.
No,
which is kind of funny. He was on Match Game as one of the celebrities for a few times too. So
yeah.
Well, I tell you what, man. Let me ask a question that's a little off subject.
Like we haven't already been off subject.
Way off.
Vigilante.
Yep.
Nah, for real, man. Let me ask you something, man. Do you think all right, we're looking at Mark Millar. He's created a bunch of great shit in comic books for at least for like the last 15 pushing on 20 years now. He created the Kingsmen, he created Kick-Ass, he created a bunch of shit, and for the most part, his comic books are Kick-Ass, and he's one of the top writers, and shit in the comic book industry. There's a lot of people that are up there with him, but he's worked his way up. He's done his thing. A lot of his shit's turned into movies, shows, and a bunch of other stuff. So he's doing some things, and he comes up with this suggestion that I know you've heard us talk about. Let me ask you this: do you think that with him wanting to say, hey, we need the old school professionals to come back into the comic book industry in order to help us set this shit right, come back and work for Marvel and DC for 2 years, basically give it your all so that we can get the comic book industry up and running, and he thinks that'll fix the comic book industry? You think that's
no? It's dead. It's over.
Huh?
It's over. It's dead. No, it won't work. It might make it could help. I'm not saying it couldn't help, but it's over. Like too much. It's too many. It's a multifaceted thing. It's easy to say what, which is a huge part of it. A lot of fan hating decisions made with some of the characters, fan hating rhetoric from the creators, fan hating rhetoric from the companies.
So basically, a whole bunch of shit has happened to where it's hard to sit there and fix.
It's hard to fix that. And then we talked about how, or when I was in the chat. This is the speculator or the collector versus the reader thing has gone on. And I mean, listen, part of me says there's a potential that some money could be made because we are in a market, we're in an era where there's a huge memorabilia collection wave.
Right.
There's a huge thing, whether it's action figures, retro games, Hot Wheels. There's like a huge wave. But that wave is still niche. You know what I mean? That wave is still not, there's not 100 million people buying Legos and Hot Wheels, but there's a few 100,000 that are really into it. And the same thing is potentially true for comics. But, I say that, though. I'm saying that as somebody who wasn't as active of a comic book fan. You know what I'm saying? But you can't turn the clock back to 1980 anything. But maybe you can turn the clock back. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can turn it back to 2011. And get, you know what I mean? Maybe you can't. And I know it doesn't start a new 52. But you guys know what I mean. Maybe you turn it back to 2008 when you have an active comic book industry. It's still a niche market, but it's still, Books still sell a moderate amount.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think there's been a lot of goodwill lost with the legacy customer, and the new customer has went on to other things. And the MCU is not even active anymore as far as young people are concerned. That ended at Endgame. That's 5 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
It ended in 2018, 2019, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you lost that connection where Marvel was so hot. Maybe you could have did it in 2018 because it was, one, you hadn't done as much damage, and two, you still had an active Marvel to kind of put MCU, I should say, to push fans into it. Now you don't have that. I think the perception for even the normie is the MCU is dead, and the niche market. A lot of the people, the legacy, like I said, the legacy fans, you pissed off. The new fans didn't show up. They went to Roblox. They went to something else. You know what I mean? Seriously, they went to what was it, CS:GO? They went to whatever else, but they're not coming into comics. Not even when I was younger, comics kind of became a young adult thing or a teenager thing.
Yeah.
Even that market, they're not watching. They're watching. So they're doing something else. You pissed off too many people for too long to try to compare it. It'll take longer than 2 years. It would take a good 10 years of this.
Well, yeah, a lot of them went off the manga. So I mean,
manga.
Well,
your family.
And the other thing is like the societal shift in how certain age groups act.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I was, say, 9 through 11 or whatever, right? I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have internet. I didn't have any of that other stuff. So I still acted, I guess you would say, age appropriate for the era.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now you look at it, and 9 to 11, I mean, like you said, they're hooking up with manga, and they're on the internet. They're doing all this stuff that we never got to do. They age up very rapidly now.
Oh yeah.
And they're not interested in the superhero wins the day kind of thing. At least not in the traditional sense. Like, their superhero is One Punch Man or Naruto or whatever.
One Piece, all these other.
Right. And those are far more
Niyasha.
I don't want to say adult, but they're definitely more mature than the comics of the past. Now, the comics still dealt with mature subject lines, but they tippy-toed around a lot of subjects.
They coming up in the
Japanese 90s. Don't care. Like they
Maybe I have a different perspective because the 90s comics, this is Death of Superman, Batman getting his back.
And again, right. I'm talking about at
the Gwen Stacy fucking the Green Goblin. When did the fuck that happen?
I don't remember that.
It's like 90 something, but it's just stupid.
Right, and I'm looking at it as a perspective from the 70s.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the 70s comics were a bit, oh, gee shucks.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't really push too far into young adult or adult territory. They were drawn a certain way, and we can all appreciate Wonder Woman for her outfits.
Oh, yeah.
Or, a number of Marvel characters for how they were drawn. But that was about the most of it. Like, they were maybe dressed provocatively, but the stories were still a bit, clean, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, so there's another thing. Comics, like I said, when I came up, what's my man? Is it Jim Lee who did Hush? And he drew the Catwoman with the huge titties and all the superheroes.
And the butt.
Yeah, huge titties, huge ass. And so when I came up, it was like, no, this is more. We're not even aiming for 9 and 10-year-olds. We're aiming for 19, for like 15 to 25-year-olds.
Exactly.
And so that leads us to another thing. What's the price point at? Who's buying a $5 floppy? You know what I'm saying? A lot of people give Ripper shit, but Ripper is making a graphic novel. You know what I'm saying? So you give a $5 floppy is not a good price either. Manga is also cheaper. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy it digitally, it's even cheaper than that. And they got a fan base that, you know what I mean? They took a lot of those potential comic book readers away. I think one of the biggest issues with a lot of the comic characters is they've been kind of stuck in, obviously, whatever, but like they've been stuck in this kind of arrested development for a while. The characters themselves, where they haven't had, I don't think, the event comic has taken a lot out of it too. There's no stakes. So this isn't just a one thing. There's no stakes to anything that happens. You know what I'm saying? You might get a good arc that you like, a good run of a writer, artist, and a good crew on a good character, and you get a good run out of it. But there's no stakes to anything. It's just, and I granted, manga. Some of the manga has some of that same issue. Looking at you, Dragon Ball Z. But or anime, some of them have the same issues, but the stakes have been removed across the board. I think we know comic book characters never stay dead. There's unless it's Uncle Ben or Batman's parents, and even Batman's parents has come back. So the justice. So there's no stakes.
Right.
They're not marketing. Right. Who's this marketed towards? What age group? Question mark. That's what made the woke stuff so. Because are you going for a young audience for something that's really aimed towards an older audience? Because to me, the ideal comic book fan is now between 25 and 55. You know what I mean? Where again, it once was children, and it once was teenagers, and it keeps aging up. And anyone, it's too much. It's too many things going on. There's too many things against it. We used to have a milkman. We used to have malls. Malls used to be a thing. And just certain things we're in a different era and is not coming along. So I just don't. I think.
Well, and also you could get a comic book at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you can't now.
Or the 7-Eleven, or the drugstore. Yeah, where I get my comics.
I was a generation that saw that go away, where it was like one day I could go to the store and get
any store,
any store, and then the next day I just couldn't, and it was impossible to find. You had to find comic book shops, and they're not everywhere. That hurt. That was the biggest blow to comics to me yet, is when they stopped making them readily available. I know they've tried to remedy that. I know they got some of these comics have like a Walmart line.
Right.
They really,
yeah.
Comics can become like vinyl. I think that's the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Like a nice niche market where there are fans that buy it and it's able to support itself. Dax, I think you're on to something. I think the independent market will do fine. The mainstream too will probably limp on because they're still IP farms. But the glory days of any era, even if you're talking about some of the eras that you didn't really like at the time, but still were better than this. We're not getting the New 52 back, let alone, you know what I mean, the golden era. So It is what it is. I don't think 2 years, 3 years. You need to just, I think Marvel and DC just did too much damage to all their own IP and too much damage to their own fan base connection. And one more point before I stop rambling.
No, you're good.
I've talked about on my streams and on my channel that one of the new things that is typifying this era that I think certain groups across the entertainment sphere, not just in comics, just entertainment in general, is there's a reason we have people in the chat now, right? It's because we know them, and sometimes we're in their chat and we say hi, and there's a much more, the parasocial relationship between creative and fan or consumer or supporter, whatever word you want to use, is a lot closer, and the expectation is that it stays closer. So you can't sit off of your castle and cast down stones of the peons no more, because that's not what people want. Because now you have a generation who are used to the internet, used to being able to tweet their favorite celebrity their entire life.
Yeah, it's all about the interaction.
Yeah. So you need that, hand to hand, or foot boots to the ground, interacting with each individual person, each individual fan. That's a bigger part of it too. So you have to get back to that level. And like I said, all the creators in the space of comic books, all they've done is just attack fans and bash people. You're a Nazi if you make comics for this person and try to blacklist people. They did all this stuff thinking that the industry was just going to stand up and protect them. It's crumbled around them. So yeah, vitalism will come back.
Yeah, Newborn, what you got going on? What's this?
It's just something I found on Twitter. I thought it was hilarious.
No, it's X now, not Twitter. X.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Xer. Look at the name of the teams.
Oh, Nice.
That was an actual game.
That's
Like
great.
that blew a nice press, right? Or Nice, technically, but still, that's hilarious. I just thought that was fun.
Welcome to Muff.
Oh yeah, welcome to Muff. Please dive carefully.
Wow.
But yeah, I just thought that was funny. Like the teams were Nice and Brest. But anyway,
that's
I can see the vinyl thing as well. More so because of today's purchasing environment. Like, you don't have to go to the store to buy vinyl. You can buy it online.
Right.
And, you know, it's better for the seller as well as the consumer.
Yes.
Because you don't have to have this huge storefront to sell vinyl anymore. Like the old record stores.
Yep.
Right.
Now you just got a little thing up on Amazon or wherever, or your own even.
Don't forget K-Tel Records back in the day.
Okay. Well, K-Tel was more of a production thing than it was a storefront. But yeah. Comics have the same kind of capability. You know, you don't need a huge storefront anymore. You know, RIP approved that.
I think the
more than once
is the future. I think there will be more rippers. There will be more and there already were, right? Because you had a lot of Indiegogo, more companies that are doing it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was agreeing with you. No. Keep going, Vijay. I was saying, yeah. I was.
But no, that is the future. Again, why does Ripper have a fan base? Because everyone knows Ripper to be watching his content. It's an interaction thing, and then they feel like they're part of something. Vinyl
grew from his YouTube channel,
grew from his YouTube channel, and talk about vinyl. I'm messing with music myself. I want to release an album of vinyl. You know what I mean? If I release something, I want to make sure that's going to be I looked into it. It's a process. You can do pre-orders though, so I'm probably gonna do some sort of pre-order system because I don't know how much sell. But anyways, it's still a viable. I buy vinyl, like you know what I mean. Yeah. And there is that's why comic books aren't going to die, because there's this new niche market, and there's this new, like you said, there's no storefront, so the overhead is a lot lower. There's a lot of print on demand. There's a lot of different print shops and production areas where you can get high quality things printed up for a reasonable price, in bulk. Yeah. And there's pre-order systems now, rather it's Indiegogo, you come up with your own. There's all these different things to help out the independent creative. And the corporate creative has just done so much damage. So I think it's going to be a lot more indie, a lot more niche, however you want to pronounce it.
Right, there you go.
But the big two, it's not impossible, but it's just going to take work. Maybe 2 years, I don't think is enough. Maybe 5 years. And you know what? Here's something else I'll say about Mark Millar. You don't necessarily, if there are available creatives out there, available comic book creatives, you probably should hire them back. I'm not telling you not to. Probably will sell a few more issues. But just not leading with ideology as a hiring practice will solve a lot of your problems. You know what I'm saying? There will be new creators that are good if you hired more of them. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't push them out, if you didn't, especially nowadays, you can find so many people on Instagram who can draw, who can write, who do all this other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there are talented people out there. It's just that they're not the ones that get hired. You hire someone because, I voted this way or have these politics, and that's all that matters. You're not even getting the most talented people with those politics, honestly.
Oh, God, no.
It's really a more artistic thing. But I'll stop.
No, you good. No, it was it's just you fine. You don't ever gotta stop, man. It's it's just actually it's just one of those things that for them to expect anything to get better, they're gonna have to stop what's making it bad right now. Like the thing is, you can't fix it without doing something about what got it to that point. So, you know, it's like, okay, you could hire 20, 30, 40, you know, old school writers, you know, artists, people that can sit there and get people back to buying, you know, into your comic book company, whether it's DC or Marvel. But at the same time, when you still got the SJWs in the house and you're not doing no kind of purge to get that bullshit, you know, out of your company. Right. And how do you do that? You know, I mean, they got people so, you know, so ingrained in the fucking fabric of the company at this point that how do you purge that? And you're talking about getting people to come in and write, but then you got to fix the bridge between you and them before they would even accept anything from one of these companies, man.
Well, and I said it at the beginning. It's you purge from the top down. Like this is a like we are hurting. We're hemorrhaging money. We cannot survive in our current state.
Right.
Top down, wipe them off the board. They're gone. And you start over. You put a person in place that is a businessman, not an ideologue for the left or whatever, you know, diversity bullshit.
That won't help either.
Well, no, I mean, if you rebuild from the top down, a businessman isn't going to make hires based on diversity.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to make it so they can make money, because at the end of the day, that's what they need to do is make money, to continue to make money, to continue to produce content, to continue to make money. Like they're a business, and what's unfortunate is a lot of liberals don't understand that.
No,
and they suffer for
it. Honestly, what's going to happen, because both DC and Marvel are attached to Warner Brothers and Disney, who are having financial issues. This might save it. They're gonna just shut down the comic. They're gonna shut down both of their houses and license it out.
To like IDW.
Either license or even just sell the IPs outright.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll sell the IPs. There's too much money being generated plus merch, but they'll license it out. Now, what do they do with, you know, maybe they'll put it in, you know, we still own the IP. Maybe we work for hire licensed out. I don't know. But that's as ironically enough, probably, because what you just said, I don't see them doing. They haven't demonstrated. Well, that's like DC sometimes tries, but then they hire James Gunn. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think either company can do it anymore. I don't think they're capable of it. So I think licensing it out to an IDW, to a replica, maybe. Who knows?
Well, I mean, but if that happens, they're still in control.
Yeah, they will still maintain control.
And that's not going to solve anything either. Like, it legit, for it to truly get fixed and supposedly back on track, those who are in control can no longer be in control.
Right.
Now, it may not come to the point where, you know, these IPs are just completely run into the ground, and if they put out a movie, they don't get any kind of response, not even a middling response. They get a zero response.
They're getting it.
And to realize now it's not a money-making machine anymore.
Right.
It's a money-sucking machine, which they're getting close to that point.
Yeah.
Marvel especially.
Both, really. I mean, Blue Beetle, and then you said all these Marvel movies and shows every week.
Right now,
Marvel show I don't want to watch.
Right. The only thing I can say is, like with with DC, we're still getting the old regime's junk. You know, I don't necessarily have high hopes, but I would like to think I would reserve judgment of James Gunn until I see the first James Gunn thing come out. Just to be fair, you know, give him the opportunity to actually produce something as the head, because Blue Beetle wasn't his, The Flash wasn't his. That was all last regime. You know, okay, let me see which is Creature Commandos.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where are we going with this? How is it presented? Is it entertaining? And then I'll make that decision.
Right.
What's that?
James Gunn knows how to make one type of movie. He knows how to make team.
Yep. That's why I've been saying from the beginning. Yep.
And he doesn't give a fuck what the characters were. He creates the same archetypes he wants, and that everyone's a wisecracker, and he's the dumb.
The one's asshole, one's smart, one's the muscle.
Yeah. And that's all he knows how to make. And listen, some people like that style and it's entertaining to them. Some of the stuff is entertaining. Some of the stuff can be funny and whatever. But I don't give James Gunn anything. I don't like his style, so I'm not giving him. To each their own.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, if he wants something like that, he should do a Green Lantern movie where you have all the lanterns, because Lord knows you got the asshole with Guy Gardner, and you got all across the board.
But that's who's showing up in the Superman movie.
Oh yeah,
it's Guy Gardner.
Yeah. So he's the asshole in Superman's new movie.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then you got,
but even then, the casting is still wrong. I like Nathan Fillion. I don't like him as Guy Gardner. I'd rather see him as Hal Jordan.
I agree. He's more of who would you like to see as Guy Gardner?
Right now, I don't think
John Cena.
John Cena. Well, he's the peacemaker. They're going to probably keep him as that.
No, I mean, I know he's peacemaker, but I mean, someone that
he probably could pull it off. He's got that kind of meat thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a huge Guy Gardner fan. Honestly, in the first place, honestly, who would you like to see as Guy Gardner? No one, because I don't want to see Guy Gardner.
I got you.
But I mean, okay, fine. He's part of the mythos. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's a snarky enough individual that could pull that off. I don't have anyone off the top of my head. I don't know. Like the original idea of live action Green Lantern was supposed to be Nathan Fillion as Hal Jordan, and that got morphed into Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
Because when they first started talking about that, they were talking about Nathan Fillion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's good in that part. He really, I think he would be.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the launch of a universe too. The Green Lantern, they were thinking about starting a DC universe based on that at one point.
Yeah, they were at one point, and now it's turning into something else. So
they've had 5 or 6 different attempts at this DCEU, and I'm not exaggerating. Over the past 15 years, I don't have any. I'm done, man. I'm done. I don't want to say I'm done completely with the superhero genre. But there's no reason to get excited about any of this stuff. That's why I joked last week. I care more about, and I still haven't seen Barbie, so maybe I was lying. But I said I care more about Barbie than it was a Superman, whatever the fuck the Superman is that we're talking about. I forgot what the name is.
Well, the thing is, Vidge, there is that superhero fatigue. I don't think it's just you. I think there's a lot of people out there that have really gotten overly. It's because overly saturated over the years. Yeah. And this is the wrong time for DC to try to do its turnaround because of that fatigue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I honestly don't see new life really going with DC because of that fatigue, unless Gunn and Safran come out with something absolutely freaking fantastic. I don't have hope for that, though.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned Creature Commandos. I honestly think you'll do something better with a lesser known character. That might do a better job than.
And that may be why that decision was made, that we're actually getting Creature Commandos and not, big X, Trinity character first.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, Creature Commandos looks like an offset of the Suicide Squad, but in a whole nother manner.
Right.
And
I mean, it's what do you call it? Universal monsters, effectively.
Right.
Yeah, you have Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein.
Right.
You know, and then Frankenstein's played by David Harbour, who played Hellboy in the reboot that failed, but he's, you know, of course, people know him from Stranger Things.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad actor. I don't necessarily agree with his political views, but I can separate that. Like, go act, be character, do well. You know,
I don't think he knows
shut the fuck up on X, but
he
do
doesn't
character.
knows what his political views are. He just does what I'm telling. Because he wasn't he the one who's like,
he said something about communism.
Yeah, he was like, well, I guess it wasn't that good. I'm like, what? You don't even know what you're talking about. You're reading the sheet wrong.
You're spewing shit. Yeah.
Go away. I do want to react to something that I thought maybe somebody was going to say on the panel, but you know, there is a hero fatigue, there's bad writing fatigue. It's both. It's a combination of both. But like, even you talk about the zombie thing, there was a zombie fatigue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it took a few years of not being quite as mainstream, and yet you can still make good zombie material. It's not dead forever. But there is a fatigue. There is a, you know, shit. If you guys remember, you know, we talked a little bit about The Flash last week, but shout out to Michael Keaton. He made a movie in 2014 called Birdman.
Birdman.
The whole premise of the movie is that Hollywood themselves and the actors themselves are tired of superhero movies in 2014. And that's when the MCU was at its peak. So, yeah, there are people who, you know, the fact that all they make is superhero movies is a problem, even if they were good, even when they were good.
Right.
Because it a lot of other, you know, we don't get comedies anymore. We get we get jokey characters in superhero movies. I think an actor even said that. Like, we don't get comedies. We don't get, you know, for the ladies, you don't get romantic comedies. You get feminists, you get Harley Quinns, Fantabulous, whatever. So nobody gets.
Or even Barbie.
Or Barbie, I guess. But I mean, Barbie's the first movie oriented towards women that women actually like, probably like 5-10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like,
but now how much of that is nostalgia bait? You know, based on a lot of the women who went to go see it, who took their daughters or whatever to see it, like that they had Barbies when they were younger, kind of thing. You know, definitely. There's still a hook in there somewhere that there has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I could say. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. But just wanted to follow through with Veg there. It's like, just because you do have the fatigue doesn't mean it's dead.
Yeah, it's not dead.
I mean, I remember back in the mid 80s when Star Wars had Star Wars fatigue, and basically everybody thought it was dead. It was gone. It started coming back to life in '87. The 10th anniversary, the role-playing game came out, and then really exploded with Dark Empire and Heir to the Empire. And now I think you are getting more Star Wars fatigue now because Disney just loves running.
Well, they've fucked that thing into oblivion. They put the strap on and just went to town and.
Oh, yeah, and no loop.
You know, there's nothing left of the asshole that was Lucas and Star Wars. Like, yeah, they've ground it into beef at this point. Right. It's a joke. You know, and the people defend it. Like, you know, I didn't watch Ahsoka. I had no interest. Seeing the arguments online about the lightsaber through the chest, whatever, through the side, they were arguing. Like, I mean, I understand the one point. Well, supposedly in the first couple episodes, the Padawan, I don't even know her name, Sabine gets a lightsaber, and it's off center, but it is through the body.
Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with Obi-Wan's series, character takes lightsaber to center mass, doesn't die. And it makes the prequels death of Qui-Gon Jinn completely fucking useless. Because it means nothing. You know, it's like, he must have been weak. What's that? Well, yeah, and that was the argument was, well, Qui-Gon took it like dead center through the stomach, whereas these other characters took it like off center and whatever. I'm sorry, but a 1,000,000-degree lightsaber, no, like I stick it even slightly off center and I twitch and I just went right through you.
Yeah.
Like, it just means nothing.
Who needs lungs, right? Who needs lungs and who needs to have a heart? Because, heart's not direct on. It's kind of off-center. And, of course, the lungs definitely are. Yeah, I mean, let's have a lightsaber go through. You'll be just fine. We'll put a Band-Aid on that.
Speaking of lungs, what does it get to this point? So you smoke herb, you need oxygen. Someone smoke into your lungs, you don't suffocate because you hate weed. Suffocate because you're not getting oxygen. I mean, yeah, but like, I'm not sure which argument that makes. My whole point is
that goes to the previous comment. Yeah,
I'm not saying that bad. If you still had good writing, there would still be people who don't want to see the next superhero movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, would there be as many? Of course not. It's a combo of both. It's not. You can't separate them. You know what I mean? It's both bad writing and too much, and not like you said. Like I was feeling you make my argument. There's no oxygen. There's no other. You don't just need oxygen. You need oxygen, nitrogen, all the stuff air is made of. So there's no other things being pushed. And so I think that was a part of the superhero fatigue as well, is the fact that these companies, instead, I didn't mean to cut you off, and we've talked about this, instead of let's put together $30 to $50 million for a movie and hope that it makes 100, whatever it is to profit. Now it's let's put together $250 million for a big superhero CG fest. Let's put together allegedly $500 million for the Marvels and hope that it makes his money back. And now, because we put 500 in that movie, and I hope that number's not true, but just I'm just saying it. Now we put all these hundreds in that movie. All the 3 or 4 other little movies that we could have made don't get made. So it's not one. It's a multi. To me, it's both. It's the fact that they only make superhero movies, which means they only make big budget movies, which means they don't make a bunch of other type of movies. And that's been the perception, at least, of Hollywood. That's changing. You're seeing a lot of horror stuff. You're starting to see that change, right? In recent years. But for a good 5-10 years, that was the perception. Marvel, that's why the theaters were losing money. They only made money when Marvel came around. They only made money off the snacks because the Marvel and Disney took most of the money. So I think it's a combination of both. Even if you had good writing, there would still be some people. Can I see it? Just a regular action.
Well, and
regular comedy.
I mean, you can look at it too. Like Hollywood never learns until it's too late.
Yeah.
Right. The pendulum swings slowly for them. So when at the moment that Marvel should have, like when they said, okay, we're going to do TV shows, they did not learn from Netflix's shows at all. Those shows were successful. Even the bad one was more successful than the bad Disney Plus shit.
Right.
Iron Fist came off horrible, but yet I'd still rather go back and watch Iron Fist than watch any of the Disney Plus series, if you will, like Secret Invasion, all that other shit. Like it still hit harder than anything that they put out. They refuse to learn until it's too late. Now they're panicking and they're pulling back on the D plus shit because they realize it's not making them any money. But that damage has already been done. Right.
They wouldn't listen to anybody trying to tell them otherwise because they knew better. What do you know? We're in the industry.
If you're going to go into a venture, and this goes across all businesses, like I'm going to create product X. I've invented product X. Now I'm going to create it and make it for the public consumption.
Right.
I'm going to look at other businesses that have been similar to see who was successful and who wasn't. And I'm like, okay, I'll take an aspect from here because they were successful. And I'm going to take an aspect from here. And I'm going to run that business as I've seen success in other businesses that are similar. They don't do that. So they took nothing out of Netflix other than the fact that, hey, we've got these all in our house now, so we can do it our way. But they didn't learn why Daredevil was successful on Netflix. They didn't learn why Jessica Jones, a character that probably shouldn't have been as successful, but was.
Yeah, didn't nobody know who the fuck she was?
Right. Or Luke Cage. Now, I'd say Luke Cage probably has a bit more notoriety than Jessica Jones, but they're tied together.
Right.
Because in the comics, they're fucking married with kids.
Right.
And the comic book people understood that.
Right.
Now, they completely jumped ship and didn't do that in the shows, but they did have a relationship and knew each other.
Right.
But they were successful, especially the first season of Jessica Jones. The second season was kind of meh. The first season with the Purple Man, the best casting I think I've ever seen out of any superhero movie, and I mean it, more so than Chris Evans as Captain America, more so than Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Tennant as the Purple Man just hit the nail on the head. He was perfect for that role. And you'll never, they killed him off, so you'll never see him again. But like, they're not going to learn from that at all.
Well, I would say you almost hit on another lesson they should have learned is that, I think the later seasons of those shows are not as strong as the earlier seasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is overexposing yourself, extending yourself, rather. I think that you could say that. Yeah, man. Even with you guys remember when the CW verse didn't suck? I do. Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Right. The first couple seasons of all their shows.
Yeah, first couple seasons were watchable. But then when you have all these shows, you keep adding shows, you keep adding seasons.
Right.
And you're 30
you have to
stuff.
To include the writing fell off on a lot of that stuff. The
Part
writing absolutely fell off on Flash.
Yeah. Oh my God, did it ever?
And even Green Arrow
and Flash like around the same time. And the first couple seasons of Legends were cool. It was cool, but then it just I just stopped. But when Legends was still cool, everything else was falling off.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I don't really want to. We'll see. You kind of had it right. Legends was getting better, but everything else was getting worse, and it was like, man, you know what I mean? Because the first season was fun enough because I liked all these characters from all the other shows. So this is fun. And then it got kind of better, but everything else was falling off, and it was like, man, I don't really want to watch the other shows. So I'm gonna stop watching this.
And what season was that? Was that like season 4 or 5 for the Flash?
Yeah.
Where it like officially just like took the swan dive right off.
Yeah. No, you're right. About 4 or 5 was when it started tanking. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And up to that point, it was good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Started off so good. Even Arrow started off good.
Yeah, even Arrow.
The only thing I did not like about the Arrow, which is kind of a hit or miss with people. Some people, agree, some people don't, and that's fine. Was that it borrowed too much from Batman?
It did. A
lot of the storylines, like Huntress and all that, none of that should have been Green Arrow. That should have all been Batman.
They definitely borrowed, but you know what? They still kept some of Oliver Queen because he was still kind of a wisecracky asshole. He still was kind of
right. I mean, the character didn't change. It was just a storyline that they wrote around him was Batman-esque or straight Batman. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, Keely Child?
3 and 4, but
hey, Keely.
5 or 6. Hey, I'm Keely Child. Yeah,
that
was another huge wasted opportunity because they were on network television and they had a little buzz and they just totally ruined it. I think if you do this, you got to keep it simple. We talk about the hardcore MCU, even though I can talk about how most of us did. That notwithstanding, it was based on really that first Avengers team and those 5 or 6 characters and their individual movies. Obviously, they get Black Widow to whatever, and Hulk couldn't because of the rights, whatever. But those core Thor, Captain America, Iron Man.
Right.
And obviously Hawkeye and Hulk and Black Widow. It was those few characters, those few movies, and slowly it overexpanded to where it was just. I don't think they had the vision to keep it all together. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you did there. The vision.
The vision. No, I really don't. I don't think that you had the ability to keep it all together once you have now like 10, 15 properties where it start off with 3 plus a combined one. You know what I mean? That's a lot easier to manage.
Well, and the thing too is, like, you look at the original movies that led up to the first Avengers. they kept pretty much to the core. There were some slight changes, but they were still, that character was that character. Mm-hmm. So, right. You read the comics, you got a feeling that, okay. And again, the castings were really good. Mm-hmm. You can't deny that those were failures in any way. The point where they start to hiccup is where they start really going off the rails compared to the comics. So, you set up Ant-Man, but you created Vision before Hank Pym was even a thing. Mm-hmm. And in the comics, Hank Pym was a creator of Vision. That was him. And now you throw it at Iron Man's feet and give it some, I want to, put an armor around the world, whatever shit line that they had. And it just started to fall apart. You're just off on your own doing shit. You're not even coming close to, you're using characters from the comics and that's it. Mm-hmm. No storylines, no nothing else.
I would argue Civil War 2. Those two movies was when it started to shift. It was
the Civil War.
Age of Ultron, Civil. Well, because to me, Civil War requires. We knew most of the secret identities as far as the world knew who they were. It requires an entire Marvel universe to make sense to me.
Right. They didn't have the number of characters to do it, so that's why they had to twist it to the Sokovia Accords.
And that didn't fit right. And it also was Iron Man has kind of been the thumbing his nose at the government this entire series.
Right, and then suddenly he's going to be a puppy.
It didn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
It made sense a little bit more from Steve's side because he was especially after the Winter Soldier, kind of in a swirly view of how he viewed everything.
Right. He didn't know who to trust and whatnot. Yeah.
So I got his perspective, but I guess the idea was, I can't keep thumbing my nose at the government. At a certain point, I got to get with it. But that's what they kind of tried to do, but it didn't fit what Civil War was. Hell, not everybody even likes Civil War in the comics.
But I mean, the original Civil War in the comics was effectively those two.
Yeah.
It was Tony versus Captain America, the first one.
Yeah.
So they wanted to stick to that, but even in the comics, it felt odd because Tony's character in the comics was very anti-establishment, government-wise.
Yeah.
So the sudden twist, he's
not
going to
everyone likes the Civil War in the comics either. You know what I mean?
No, not exactly. Because it led to a lot of worse things.
God did it ever. Looking at you, Brand New Day. But
there was a lot of broken shit. That whole spiral of the death of Captain America and Spider-Man just being completely ass backwards at that point.
Golly, see,
they fucked a bunch of characters up in that.
They really did. See, these are some of the decisions that when we talk about these comic book companies and we talk about everything that's going on since. This is the groundwork and framework which all that shit was built on. It was already shaky. You already made crazy decisions that pissed people off in the past, and now you're going to add on. You're going to build on top of that woke garbage that hates all the fans. You're not going to succeed, man.
Right? Did you hear?
You still got to fix this old shit, and you just made more shit to fix.
Right? Did you hear what they did in the last maybe 2 weeks? You know the Ultimate Universe where Miles Morales originally came from?
Yeah. What do they do? What do they do now? Everyone gay?
It's back.
It's back.
Again?
Yeah, they got rid of it.
No, it's back. Right? It's in full force. They just dropped initial number 1.
Oh, okay. I'm sure a bunch of collectors are picking up, and maybe
so that effectively makes Warworld completely nonsensical. The Doom being in charge and making one universe out of all the multiverse, that just goes out the window.
Again, no stakes in comics. No matter what they do, it'll be reversed.
Right.
Yeah, for some reason they went back to that, and they just dropped the Ultimates now, number 1. So, and they're going back to the same universe, and
Good point.
that doesn't exist.
Kai. Oh shit, Kai. Hold on.
He's right. It is where Nick Fury Jr.
Yeah,
Sam Jackson.
That's where Sam Jackson Fury's from. Well, they just revisited it. So, it's like, damn, you can't win, man. It's like it's woke, and now they went back to this shit, and a lot of I don't know. Some people like Miles Morales, teach their own, but not a whole lot that was good came out of this. And now they're gonna go back and revisit that shit.
Yeah, wasn't that the one with Evil Reed Richards though?
No, actually, with Warworld and the whole Doom thing,
I think he was the Reed Richards though, with the mustache and goatee though.
Right, he was the Reed that actually survived.
Mm-hmm.
So when things went sort of back to normal, he's actually the Reed Richards we kept. Because the Reed Richards from, 616,
the original,
effectively died in the combination of universes, because he was the one that went toe to toe with Doom, in that storyline. So yeah, well, and that's kind of what happened. You get a different Reed Richards, you get a different, Miles Morales.
Captain America.
Miles Morales is Miles Morales, and we'll leave it at that.
Hell, Captain America ain't even the same no more.
Well, and there's a number of reasons for that.
Shit.
I don't know. Who's Captain?
Yeah, the cap that we have is the cap that we have. Well, no, he's the one that was pulled out of the Cosmic Cube.
Yeah, so it's like our original Captain America. He's Yahtzee Captain America.
Oh, that's right.
He's still in the raft.
Yeah, and he's still doing 25 to life.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. They had a broken system that just broke more shit on top of it instead of fixing the old shit. That's
right.
That's a lot. You
Man,
can't.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say they've screwed Captain America up so badly that there is no real fix for that.
You can't fix some of this shit, man.
Like the whole Hail Hydra cap, the whole concept of that was that he was Hydra all along.
Yeah.
So it was like you can't go back and fix that, because you not only did it destroy original lore, but it went and screwed all the way back to World War II, like in real world World War II.
No.
So you've completely crushed that character into nothingness.
Yeah. And Glenzer, listen, man, I hate to break it to you. Spider-Man is a class of hero now. He is not a single hit. To the next generation, they're going to see Spider-Gwen, not just everyone. Y'all always blame the black guy. This little white girl, nobody says shit about her. Nobody says shit about the blonde white girl.
That's because we're bigots.
To be fair,
Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales will be considered as valid as Peter Parker by the future generation. That's definitely what they're trying to do at bare minimum.
Right. And to link on to that, who did they push more? Spider-Gwen or him? They created Spider-Gwen and then kind of left her off lingering somewhere and never really pushed her as a prime character. Miles, they just flat out want to get rid of Peter Parker. Period.
You say that, but I would say with the Spider-Verse, they're pushing them both pretty heavy.
Well, now they are, yeah. But that wasn't the case in the comics originally.
Yeah, in the comics maybe not, but as far as marketing, as far as the
video
now
shows,
they're a pair.
Yeah, they're a couple basically. So that is the lens from which future people will see the Spider-Man mantle. Like, I know you don't like these words. I know people want to argue against them, but they've already won that battle, unfortunately, because of how they've used, and again, not just the comics, they use video games. I saw this kids show which had them on there, and of course the Spider-Verse movies. So they've used the other media to get people who didn't know about Peter Parker or younger individuals. They know Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales as much as they know Peter Parker. So I hate to break it to you. This is one of the few woke battle. You want to call it a woke battle? They won from the populace. They done an excellent job of marketing, especially Miles. Obviously, I would say they market him a little more, but they're definitely pushing that Spider-Gwen as well.
Yeah.
They've
done that to a number of characters too. I mean,
true.
Like if you really want to step backwards a little further, they did that to Thor a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you had what was the 80s one, Thunderstrike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Eric Masterson.
Masterson, right? You had Eric that Masterson, one. Yeah. You had
Beta Ray Bill.
Right, Beta Ray Bill. Like you had not just effectively different Thors per se, but they were different in a way. Right. Wow. The Frog.
Yeah. Then you got
but yeah, I mean it's not a first. Definitely not.
Yeah, it's not a first. I just think they've done a better job with this as far as marketing it to the masses because of those Spider-Verse movies. And like I said, I saw it was a little kids show and it had all three of them swinging around. I'm like, oh my God, they're little kids are going to just know this is all they're going to know. They're not going to know Peter Parker and all his travels and issues. And they're not even going to know the Gwen Stacy arc of, him accidentally killing her and trying to save her. Or, you know what I mean? They're not going to know any of that shit. It's just, oh yeah, Spider-Gwen and Miles. And they're not even going to know that Gwen Stacy was dating Peter Parker. They're not. They're going to just know. They're not going to read the comics. They may check out the Wikipedia. But they're going to know whatever movie or game they get pushed in front of them, or whatever little cartoon shows they get pushed.
Well, yeah, and that's frustrating with the game because the game, it doesn't even suggest that Miles was from a different universe.
Yeah.
It's just Miles was a black kid in Peter's universe, period.
Right.
And there's, at this point, there hasn't even been a Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
Or there may have been prior that we never got any kind of information on because they start with Peter Parker and MJ, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying, I'm just telling you that they've done a really good job of marketing. Yeah, Amazing Fantasy is still comic book history. It is still, all the stuff that connected you to Peter Parker still happened. It's just a generation.
It's just,
did you...
What?
What just happened? They got a new thing out where spoilers.
Okay, what's going on?
Oh no.
Peter Parker becomes the new Green Goblin.
Well, I mean, they already had.
I'm just saying.
Doc Ock beat Peter Parker.
He's the new Green Goblin.
See, they're going to do a number at destroying the connection between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He's not. Yeah. They're going to try to make him so he's not Spider-Man. And it might succeed, is what I'm telling you. It's for the masses.
Peter Parker becomes the Green Goblin that laughs.
The Green Goblin. Oh God.
That's basically what it is, though. You got when you have Spider-Man turning into the Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
what's that?
It's the same thing. Yeah,
it's the same shit. Exactly. So
the Batman who laughs.
Yeah. I hate personally. It's stupid. Batman who laughs. He has this fight. You look at his design. Isn't it cool?
I mean, look it up. Anybody that Googles it, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit!" He's and that's happening right now. And
we're still talking about creatives that are creatively bankrupt.
You can't You can't fix this shit. They're still doing too much damage.
Yeah.
It's unfixable. At a certain point, you junk a car, right? Mm-hmm. If it gets to an accident, if it's too much damage, it's junk. You don't try to fix it. It's over. So that's the big two. That's the state they're in. They got to be rebuilt. There's just too much. There's too much lore damage. You got the Punisher. We already talked about. I freaked out when I found out his wife hit him with a feminist divorce and took all the shit and sold it. And all that. That was just horrible. And got pregnant by him still. It just was. What is this?
That whole scenario is funny because, like, if you look at the character and his how he's acted in certain situations over the years. And then suddenly it's like one of those we were talking about before, where the character suddenly takes a left fucking turn out of nowhere. And it's like, you would have never, ever seen that character do that 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
But because the creatives, like I said, are creatively bankrupt, they don't know how to write the character, and they only want to push their agenda.
Yeah.
So the character ends up not even acting the way he would have acted in reality. I'm sorry, but the Punisher would have just, oh, you're going to take my shit? I'll just go get more shit.
Right.
Like, and I'll just take it from the bad guys because that's how I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll amass more guns. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Not for him anyway. Right. Instead, he's just going to curl up into a ball and not be Punisher anymore. Nah. No. That just ain't going to happen.
Yeah. You know what? The concept of his wife being, appalled with his actions since she died, that's an interesting concept. It'd be nice if they actually, had a good writer try that. You know what I'm saying? Like somehow she came back.
Right. Like his whole mindset of, I'm doing this, because they killed my wife and kids and whatever. Yeah. Even that they've kind of pushed other ulterior possibilities when they were doing the Punisher Max series, that they were saying, and that leaned heavily on the fact that he was in Vietnam, not in Iraq. That he was Vietnam is what broke him, and the final straw was the kid and the wife and that happening. But he was already a broken man when he came back from Vietnam, which made sense. Completely made sense. The idea that her coming back in the first place is just dumb. Stop bringing dead people back.
Yeah.
Amen.
Right. But his whole meaning, his whole existence is, in his mind, I'm doing this because they took my wife and kid.
Yeah.
And every evildoer should be punished to the fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
And you throw that on its ear by bringing her back, because now, why are you even doing it? She's not gone.
Yeah.
Maybe your kid's still gone, and okay, you still have that. But like, I get where you're coming from, where the whole like, this is not what I wanted you to do after I died.
Yeah.
That kind of storyline would make sense.
Right.
But in a compassionate way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't understand it in a compassionate sense. There is no compassion.
Yeah, they don't understand compassion. Yeah.
Instead of coming back going, oh my God, what have you done? It's, you asshole, what the fuck have you been doing? And she just leans into him, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, like, you're an idiot.
Stupid man shouldn't kill. Stupid man.
Right. So it could have worked very differently if they had talent.
If
they don't have talent.
It's an interesting concept to explore. I mean, again, I'm with you on the just, God damn it, stop bringing back characters. But I mean, because there was only Punisher's wife was one of the other few characters that stayed there. With Uncle Ben and Batman's parents. But so I am with you with that. But yeah, it's like, that's not a terrible take unless you're in this era and it's like, you're stupid, man.
Right. If it would have been done 10 years ago, it probably would have been a great story.
Yeah.
Right.
Not now.
No.
Just definitely not now.
And Glizzer, Spider-Man and Batman are getting pimped way too hard because they still make money. I remember the one time recently I went to a comic shop. The only thing, it was a kid, he had a stack of comics, and most of it was Spider-Man, Batman, and Spawn. And I'm like, well, those three most popular characters make sense.
See, it makes me think of like when you were a kid and you bought a toy and they had that stupid rubber band thing that attached the toy to the box or the car or the card that it was on or whatever. Yep. And you kept trying to pull it away from the packaging and it would snap back. That's kind of what's going on with Spider-Man and Batman. Like every time they try to pull them away from that original packaging, it just keeps snapping back into place. They keep trying to do it with Batman. Like Batman's not Batman anymore; it's some other dude. But yet they still have to produce a true Batman comic because the new Batman that's not Batman doesn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that they'll have a harder time doing it with Batman than they, like I said, they're already starting with Peter Parker. It's not complete. It's not complete, but I can see this in a generation or so being a little bit different. When some of these kids who are now 5 to 15 are now 25 to 30 or whatever, 25 to 35, they're going to be like, oh yeah, when I grew up, Miles Morales was around, and Spider-Gwen was around, and whatever else was around. Spider-Verse was, they're not, especially with the Spider-Verse movies and even No Way Home, they're going to just think of, yeah, Peter Parker. There's a million of these Spider-Men. They're not going to have the same connection to a single Peter Parker with a single story arc.
Right, yeah. Single universe.
Single universe, yeah. But Batman is going to be a little hard because those little replace, they just don't work. They just don't fucking work. It's still fucking Bruce Wayne in the alley with his parents, those pearls, which apparently pearls don't do that. But
I was gonna say like that. Out of a lot of different origins across all different comics, Batman has, like, I would say Batman and Superman have probably the strongest origins that make the most sense.
Yeah.
And granted, Superman is a thing that just doesn't exist in the real world. Mm-hmm. So you have a little bit of liberty there, but Batman is believable because he's not superpowered. That he's just rich and has fancy toys because of what his parents left him as a legacy, money-wise.
Yeah.
So it just works. And you every time you try to break from that, you're taking the core of that character out. And so why are you Batman again? Because some other dude was Batman? Like,
it doesn't work.
Right, it doesn't work. It doesn't have that.
Thing, Batman Beyond. But even then, you still have Bruce Wayne involved.
Right, exactly. Right. He was passing the torch at that point, and it made sense.
There was a little pull, even though Terry lost his father, which turns out in the DCEU is not, or the DC animated universe wasn't really his father because it's a weird biological thing. I'm not gonna get into that.
Right.
But even though he lost his dad, he wasn't as jaded as Bruce, and that's kind of a push and pull because it's like, I'm not brooding and dark. You know what I mean? I'm trying to have a girlfriend, have a regular life, and all you want to do is just the mission, and I'm still a human. You know what I mean? And that's what made it kind of that push and pull is kind of a good thing. One thing they have done, with Batman, though, they've attacked his parents, especially with the last Batman movie, and I think even with the Joker movie. They were able to do some rich man bad. Dog knows what they did to Thomas Wayne with the Joker in the Batman movie, where they kind of made him a lot less of a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
And in the Batman universe, where I'm talking about the Matt Reeves universe, he's the reason Gotham's fucked up. And it's like that's now that change. That does change. We'll see if that sticks. If they keep telling that and pushing that. But if that sticks, that does change the motivation because now it's not like, oh, I have this war on crime. Now he's trying to clean up his dad's mess, and that's not at all what the fucking Batman mythos is supposed to be about.
No, right. It's weak legs of a table. Like eventually, it's just gonna fall.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Every time they do that, like the only time I ever thought it was interesting when they twisted the whole Batman's parents thing was in Flashpoint.
Yeah.
The animated Flashpoint or the comic book Flashpoint. Yeah. Where I really would have loved to see them continue that on and show the dichotomy between the father and the mother going in completely opposite directions after the son's death.
Yeah.
That would have been just prime real estate to expand on, and they just left it alone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I mean, if you're gonna gender change a character, like to make Joker the mother, just it's just mind blowing.
Yeah. Stupid.
No, I don't think it's stupid. I think that would have worked.
I think it could have worked if they would have done something with it.
Well, that's exactly it. They don't know how to do the things right, and they're doing so much with other stuff left and right. It's not a unique situation. They're not talented enough to bring it through. That's why it's stupid. If they had someone who was competent, knew what they were doing, knew how to write, that'd be a different matter.
Well, with that issue is Flashpoint opened up a door that they never walked through. Right, because they were so focused on what Flashpoint was going to do beyond Flashpoint, which, that led into a lot of changes.
New 52.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So they were so focused on that they never actually took the time to walk through that door.
They should have done more Flashpoint material.
Exactly.
That universe had a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, they did do books, like certain books. They would do like a book or two on each situation. But there was a lot to explore. Even the Diana and Arthur.
Oh, that was fucked up.
I mean, there was a lot. Like, a lot of what they even show was already fucked up. Just all of it. There was a lot of stuff in that universe that.
They went back to that earlier this. Yeah, I think it was like the end of last year or earlier this year. They Jeff Johns started writing a story called. It was called. I think it was called. It wasn't called Batman. It was I think it was called Flashpoint Batman or something like that. It was, but it was written by Jeff Johns. And what happens is, Flashpoint Batman wakes up. And he's like, "Why am I waking up? I should be dead." Along with everything else. And come to find out, he finds that his wife, the Joker, is still alive. And she ends up finding some. I think if I'm not mistaken, is either Pariah or one of the time travelers. Comes to figure out that where he was like, we come to find out that we're not the original Batman or the original Joker. The original Joker comes from this planet, and they're trying to figure out how they exist. And it's like it's crazy. So they brought that back. So basically, Flashpoint Batman is still alive.
So like the Flashpoint universe didn't go away, basically?
Well, it's supposed to. Something brought it back, and I just didn't read all the books that explained. But yeah, it came back, and some of the characters, not all of them, ended up being alive. But it ended up being Batman, Flashpoint Batman, and his wife, the Joker. They were both alive, trying to figure out what the hell was going on, and she ended up finding out from a person that understands the multiverse.
Yeah.
What the hell happened and why they're back. And, and they had to go down that rabbit hole.
Because now, like, I just kind of wanted to see these characters in that world, in that universe. Now you have to spend so much time explaining why it exists that you can't even tell a story. You know what I mean? Well, why are we here? Well, just. And
it's, at the end of the day, it's still post-Flashpoint.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, exactly. But see, this is Jeff Johns. So, it's like I couldn't, if I read it all the way through, I couldn't explain it better. But
yeah, I understood.
Yeah, this thing, it was some good stuff from what I've read. And it was only like, the first 2 issues. And I think it was like 7 issues, something like that. So I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I knew what it was leading into. And it was like they're back and they trying to figure out why they're back, now after all these years, and just trying to figure that shit out. And he, Jeff Johns basically writes it like a mystery, like a detective story kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking with Vidge on this one. I would have rather seen a prequel.
Yeah,
something pre-Flashpoint that.
Oh, okay.
That explains, from like so twist the whole origin of Batman so that Bruce dies, and start from that point forward. You know,
okay,
the mental deterioration of the mother and the father, just in different directions.
Yeah.
Right. No, that would have been some good shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
So just that universe, how the universe went without a Superman to protect him too. You know what I mean? I would have liked some
exactly
stuff to me rather than going forward and then you have to go back and you have to, because the thing is, I both love and hate multiverse stories at the same time.
Oh, I love
them. I know you're a huge fan of them.
Ooh.
But what I love is the ability to tell cool different stories. Either stories of characters that shouldn't be together being together, or in this case, like we're talking about, where there's a whole different premise, whole different setup for the universe, and then seeing how that universe plays out. I love that. What I don't like is having to deal with all the like universal red tape and all the reasoning and all the this, and then the way the stakes then can get weakened. And so there's a love-hate relationship with multiverse stories for me.
Well, you know, the whole thing to it, it's always going to be the execution and the executioner. Like who can actually, who can actually write it? And see, the thing is, Jeff Johns, he's the dude. He wrote the original shits.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, out of everything, his favorite part of the whole Flashpoint was Batman.
Yeah.
And he's writing the story, and the thing is, he can write like that, man. Unless you don't know him to be that kind of writer, I'm letting you know, like he can actually.
Like his stuff. He's a good writer, for the most part. I like most of his stuff.
Right. Well, and like with the multiverse things, I like the fact that in a multiverse, you're not necessarily bound by certain known facts.
Yeah.
Lore, if you will. Mm-hmm. So you can do an Earth without Superman. You can do, the death of Bruce Wayne versus the death of the parents. And you're not bound to a specific, I have to touch on this point or I have to touch on this point. You're just free to do whatever.
Right.
It's when they start to do that and then they cross it over with a universe that already has its lore, that already has its settings.
Right.
And now there's conflict there, but it's not good conflict. It's just storytelling conflict. It's lore conflict, I guess you could call it. Yeah. Things start to not work because they're crossing over into different universes.
Right.
And Marvel did the same thing and had issues with, like we were talking about earlier, like with the war world, and then leaning into, okay, now we're back to a single universe, but you've got these characters who were built upon that multiversal idea of no bounding to lore, now being in the lore bound universe, and it breaks shit. It horribly breaks shit.
Yeah, it can be hit or miss. I mean, I like the Injustice universe, but I also thought it was more interesting before the quote unquote regular DC universe crosses back over. Like when they're just in the Injustice world, I think it's really talking about even the comics. I actually like those comics. At least the first. I didn't read any of the second Injustice.
Did you you ever got a hold of the He-Man versus Injustice?
I never did. No. No.
Yeah, He-Man. Yeah, they had a straight up crossover, and He-Man had to get on that ass real quick.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
He-Man versus. I don't know. I don't think.
Yeah, it was He-Man versus Injustice Superman in there. Yeah, that was.
That's crazy. Well, I guess He-Man's magic, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
Maybe we can't fuck with Superman a little bit better. But
I don't know.
But yeah, that's that. I did not know that one.
Yeah, it's out there. You guys can Google it. It's out there. Yeah, they if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 4 to 6 part mini limited series, something like that. I could be wrong, but
I did like the Justice Universe, but I liked it, before the regular heroes come in to save the universe. Like, I just liked it in its own world, just see how, similar to what you were talking about, see how Superman deteriorates, and also not quite always agreeing with Batman. I think he made some goofy decisions in there, but it was cool to see them, these heroes all fuck up,
right,
and all kind of deteriorate.
Well, yeah, and that's also inconsistent storytelling. Like, the relationship between Batman and Superman has kind of bounced all over the place. Like, Superman tends to be more understanding, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, he understands why Batman exists, and that maybe in Gotham he's necessary. But he doesn't always agree with how he goes about things.
Yeah.
But then you have other storylines where he's just at odds with Batman, or vice versa. And it's just like, wait a minute, you were buddies in the last issue with this other, and now you're not buddies anymore? We're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, that's an issue too. That's what that goes back to Superman versus Batman. They should have did that first. I know it's a movie thing, but it's just like, these characters are friends. You know that? Like,
right.
Yeah.
They may not always agree with each other, because friends don't always agree with each other, but they are
right
at their core friends. They shouldn't be at odds. Should be more world's finest.
Well, and they're also on the same side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Ideology wise, they're on the same side. They both understand that their existence is a necessity, but that, how they get to the end point is very different between the two of them. I love the idea that Batman in the background is like, oh, I've got a plan for every single one of you motherfuckers. If you ever go off the rails,
yeah,
like, I got you, and you're not going to be good at the end of this.
Yeah, I do like that. And Kyle, you're right. People get on your nerves and have, but the way they do it is not like, okay, they just have a spat. It'll be like best buddies issue 1. Issue 2 hate each other. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
With no explanation.
No explanation. They don't do it smooth like okay, they're grading on each other. You can see them grading at each other, and it comes to a point. And Das Wolfen is off. Peace out, man.
Yeah, take care, Das Wolfen. Thank you for being here, brother.
Yeah, have a good one, man.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah, a little bit like this. Yeah, I love Batman keeps it real. He's my boy. Larry, he's so annoying, such a fucking pessimist. Yeah,
right.
Hey, some of that would be fine, but yeah, it's just
true.
At odds, like out of nothing. There is some of that, which some of that type of stuff is cool when you can see them you can see some of them like, oh god, they rolling each other's eyes. Like, man, I love Clark. He's such a positive dude. God damn, he's fucking Boy Scout.
Like, that makes me think of the voiceover Super Friends stuff that's out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
they constantly pick on Aquaman. It's like, what are you good for, man? You talk to Fitz. Like, no, I don't.
Poor Aquaman. He's been getting the short end of the stick quite a bit in those things.
He's been getting the hook.
Oh shit. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm not sure how long you guys were going to go, but I was going to get out of here. My back is starting to bother me, to be honest. So going to do so much in the chair. I appreciate it. Joining you guys, though.
Oh man, it was great having you, brother.
Always good to have you, Vig.
Oh, you know it, man.
So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Oh, Sunday night games tonight. Please watch me, please. I'm still trying to be by the time. Please help.
There you go.
So please,
what time?
It's probably midnight, around midnight.
Oh,
good.
I know.
Midnight Central.
Midnight Central.
Well, I'll be at work.
Oh man, sorry. If anyone else could, watch the playback, please watch the playback.
Y'all definitely come check you out, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. And thank you all. Thank you, Baron. Thank you, Dubai, and of course 24. Yeah. Plus everybody in the chat. I'll see you guys later.
Hey, take it easy, brother.
Care,
yeah.
All right.
Good talk.
There you go. And that's our brother Vigilante. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, but we didn't talk about so much. It might be time for us to get up out of here as well.
Close up shop.
But over 2.5 hours, man.
I know, right? I gotta grab something to eat. But yeah, man, I had a great time, man. It was a great conversation. We talked about all kind of stuff. Actually, we're supposed to have talked about a little bit more than this, but I think we did all right.
I think so.
Shit.
We didn't necessarily hit all the subjects, but we did. It was a good talk.
Yeah, we definitely ran around the park a little bit, so it's all right.
Oh yeah, that we did.
Yeah. Nah, but I had a great time, man. We had a great conversation, man, and I definitely appreciate this, man. I couldn't do it without y'all.
Right.
So with that, want to say thank you to everybody out there in the chat. Kai, thank you, my brother. Das Wolfen, appreciate you. Glenzer, oh man, thank you for being here. Keely Chow, Roll Tide, my brother, appreciate you for being here, man. Let me see who else. The old man, appreciate you, old man. Along with Zax, man. Sean Estep, thank you, Sean. Appreciate all y'all for having our backs, looking out for us. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody, man. Looks like I'm almost getting to the top, huh? Oh, Claude Sealing. What's up, Claude? Thank you for being here. Kal-El, appreciate you. Yeah, man. Thank y'all for being here, man. I'd like to give a shout out to Sox Bulletin and my boy Sil Abdul, and to my brother Mikey Sutton, man. Rest in peace, brother. We love you, man. And man, you guys have a great evening, man. Appreciate y'all. Y'all take care. And we will definitely catch you on the next one. Peace, y'all.
See ya.
Peace.
Peace.